while I'm on the topic of profit, right? Because profit is good. Because one of the reasons it's good is because, it makes, workers have to show up and actually do their jobs, because if they don't, somebody's profits will suffer. And so somebody has a vested interest in making sure that the people show up and do their jobs. But of course, a lot of people think about profit as some kind of evil thing, a bad thing. And I'm going to play this one clip from this Russell Brand interview. And if you didn't see it, you can go up on YouTube. It's about a 10-minute exchange. And, he is quite impressive, Russell Brand, when you listen to him talk. Now, I don't know, maybe he's rehearsed this so many times that it really just wasn't just free thinking on his part. But, the way he, the way he speaks, the vocabulary that he uses, he's a very articulate, eloquent guy. And he's got a great sense of humor. So, I think there's a lot to be said for Russell Brand. But it also shows how you can be really smart and be really dumb at the same time. You can say something really stupid in a very smart way, in a very, a very intellectual way. And in many cases, the Russell Brands of the world are a byproduct of the crony capitalism that we have, of, these countries where we pretend we're about free markets, but we're really about socialism and big government. And because we have so much socialism and big government, we have all these problems. But then people like Russell Brand think the problems is capitalism. They think that's why we have these problems, is because we have too much capitalism. Not because we have too much government. If we really had free markets, then maybe we wouldn't have all these Russell Brands. But I'm going to go in and play. This is just one little bit where he actually gets into the concept of profit and how he sees profits. All right, it's cut number 1.
Ian, you talk vaguely about revolution. What is it?
I think a socialist egalitarian system based on the massive redistribution of wealth, heavy taxation of corporations, and massive responsibility for energy companies and any companies exploiting the environment. I think they should be. I think the very concept of profit should be hugely reduced. David Cameron says profit isn't a dirty word. I say profit is a filthy word, because wherever there is profit, there is also deficit. And this system currently doesn't address these ideas.
So profit is a filthy word. Profit needs to be dramatically reduced, according to Russell Brand. One of the first things I'd say to him is, well, what about the profits of the movie industry? Should those profits be dramatically reduced? This guy's a multimillionaire because of the profits in the movie industry. Even if he doesn't earn the profits, even if he's just a paid actor, where do you think the producers get the millions of dollars to pay Russell Brand? They get it because they get profits. If the producers didn't have the expectation of profits, they wouldn't make the movies. Why are they shooting movies? To make a profit. And because they want to make a profit, they got to hire Russell Brand. They also have to hire a lot of people who aren't paid millions of dollars. They got to hire the camera crew, the sound guys, all the guys that do all the post-production work and all the lighting and the editing. And there are all these jobs that are created. All these people get paychecks because the movie producers want to make a profit. That's the only reason that films are made. They're made because people want to make a profit. So if Russell Brand says profits are filthy, let's reduce profits, then he doesn't want as many movies to be made. He wants fewer movies to be made. What movies are made non-profit? Documentaries? You can't pay Russell Brand's salary off some kind of non-profit documentary. And even most documentaries are made for a profit. What would we have in the entertainment industry if there were no profits? So maybe Russell Brand thinks it's only bad if the oil companies make a profit. It's okay if the movie companies make a profit, but not the oil companies. But don't we need oil? Doesn't he drive around in a car? Maybe he flies around in a private jet. Where's the energy coming from? If the oil companies couldn't make a profit, there'd be no energy. There'd be no fuel for that jet. There'd be no jet. If the jet companies couldn't make a profit, Russell Brand would be sitting in that studio naked. Now, maybe he'd like that. But, nobody would have any clothes if the guys that made the clothes couldn't make a profit. Everything that we have that we didn't make ourselves, everything that we bought, we have because somebody made a profit selling it to us. If they couldn't make a profit, the products wouldn't be there. If you have a job, the only reason you have a job is because your employer is making a profit. Why does somebody hire somebody? To make a profit. They're not doing it for nothing. I mean, profit is not a dirty word. We need to glorify profit. Profit is the most important thing in the free market economy. We need profits. The more, the better. Profits mean you're doing something right. Profits mean you're satisfying the desires, the needs of your customers. Customers like Russell Brand and all of his fans. Hey, I'm out of time on this break. I want to come back, and if anybody heard this interview, you might want to give us a call, because I want to talk a little bit more about it. So stick around. We'll be right back. I'm talking about the interview that Russell Brand did with the Daily Mail. You can see the entire video. It's up on YouTube. It's got at least 5 million people who have seen it. You know, one of the things that Russell Brand said that in many ways I agreed with is the concept of voting, because he mentioned that he had never voted in his life. And the interviewer was like, well, you know, you want to change the world. You know, how are you going to change the world if you're not even voting? And he pointed out how futile it is to vote, because it doesn't matter who he votes for, because nothing's really going to change based on the candidates that theoretically have a chance of winning. And, of course, he's true. It's correct. I mean, even here in America, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you know, if you voted for Mitt Romney or you voted for Barack Obama, either Mitt Romney or Barack Obama was going to be president, which meant that nothing was going to change, that everything would keep getting worse, because while there was a difference between the two, it wasn't a substantial enough difference to have really altered the course that we're on. I mean, Mitt Romney was not going to dismantle government. No, he was going to grow government. He just might have grown it a little bit more slowly than Barack Obama. But a vote for Mitt Romney was a vote for more government. Didn't matter what he said. There was going to be more government. I mean, that's what you're going to get. You know, did it matter that George Bush was president for 8 years instead of Al Gore, or who else did he run against? I forget. But it probably wouldn't have mattered. I mean, you know, government would have kept growing. I mean, Bush didn't veto anything. He kept, signing off on all the new government spending. So just because he's not voting, doesn't mean that he can't try to make a difference through some other means, because he might recognize the futility of the voting. In fact, what he said is that he didn't want to legitimize the process by just lining up and voting. Because remember, that's what the Soviet Union, they had elections in the Soviet Union, and they used to brag that they had higher participation than we did. But, I mean, was it a real election when you had the choice between, Communist A and Communist B? I mean, what difference does it make which communist you voted for? You were getting a communist. But they still had elections. But, do you think the Russians, think they were proud of their votes? Or think they, no. I think that, not voting would have been a way to protest the fact that, you're not going to participate in a charade and just, pretend that you've got a choice when you don't. But going back to what he is saying about profits, I mean, we need to dramatically reduce profits, heavy taxation and wealth redistribution. That's what he wants. Massive socialism. Now, he doesn't say I'm a socialist, I'm a Marxist. I mean, that's really what he is. But he's trying to rebrand it. No pun intended. He's trying to rebrand Marxism because it's the same philosophy, but he doesn't want to say, well, my solution is a communist revolution, a Marxist revolution. So he's describing exactly the theory behind the Marxist revolution. And when they had that Marxist revolution in Russia, they succeeded in doing exactly what Russell Brand wants to do. They eliminated profits altogether. You couldn't have a profit in the Soviet Union. So if you want to know what a world without profits would look like, think back to the old Soviet Union. That was a world without profits, and it was a disaster. You couldn't get anything. I mean, there was widespread poverty. Things were so bad in Russia that people wanted to leave, and they would get shot if they were caught trying to escape. So if you don't have profits, things are so bad for the average person that you need barbed wires and machine guns to keep them from leaving the country. I mean, imagine, again, if there's no profits, how does anything get done? I mean, think about if you have a job. Think about all your fellow employees. What would you all do if there was no boss? If there was no structure to the organization? If all the workers just had to randomly come together for a common purpose to get things done. How would that happen? You see, the only reason there's a business is because somebody wants to make a profit. But if it's illegal to make a profit, then you can't start a business, right? So, but how would anything get done? How would workers organize themselves for a common purpose if there wasn't somebody doing the organizing? If there wasn't somebody putting all the pieces together, figuring out who does what, with what equipment do I need, what kind of skills, signing the job, supervising. I mean, all this comes from the desire to earn a profit. Because remember, how does an entrepreneur, how does a businessman get paid? Because he doesn't get a salary, because there's no one to pay him a salary. If you're the owner of the business, you don't get a paycheck, right? You sign everybody else's paychecks, but there's none for you, right? You've also got to pay your rent. You've got to pay all your other bills for your operating expenses, your overhead. How do you make money as the business owner, as the entrepreneur? How do you make money if you're a shareholder in a corporation? You don't get a salary as being a shareholder. You get the profits. And the profits are what's left over after everybody else gets paid. And after all the workers get paid, all the stakeholders, the landlords, right, you pay all the taxes, you pay all the interest on any money you borrowed. After everybody gets paid and everybody has got all their money, if there's anything left over, that's the profit. That's what you get to keep. If there's nothing left over, you get nothing. If after you pay all your bills, you're negative, if you lose money as a business, where does that money come from? The business owner has to reach into his pocket and write a check from his personal finances, right? When you have all these people saying, we want to share in the profits. Okay, you want to share in the losses? What about all these union contracts where profit sharing? How come they don't have loss sharing? See, I would tell my workers, if there was a unionized workforce, you want to share the profits? Fine. How about loss sharing? How about if I have a loss, you kick back part of your salary to cover the loss? See, they never want to do that. Why do we need a profit? Profit compensates the entrepreneur for taking risk. If there's no profit, no one's going to take a risk. Why? You got no upside. Profit is the salary of the businessman, of the entrepreneur. Does Russell Brand want the entrepreneur to work for free? He wants them to do all that work for nothing? Obviously. But these are these buzzwords. Profit. Profit is bad. He said, I don't even understand what he means there. He says, wherever there is profit, there is deficit. What does he mean by that? I mean, is he trying to refer to Karl Marx's surplus value of labor, where Karl Marx said that the profit that the businessman makes comes at the expense of workers, that it's simply higher wages that all the workers could have earned, but that's being stolen, that's the deficit maybe he's talking about, that surplus value. But of course, what Karl Marx didn't understand, and neither does Russell Brand, is that if there's no profits, there's no jobs at all. There would be no jobs without profits. Who is going to hire somebody if they can't profit from it? There has to be a profit. And of course, if individuals could make more money working for themselves than accepting a job, they would do it. The fact that somebody isn't self-employed, the fact that somebody chooses to work for somebody else rather than work for themselves, which is always an option. Everybody has that option. Everybody can go start a business and work for themselves. Nobody forces anybody to accept a job from somebody else. But the fact that most people choose to work for somebody else instead of work for themselves, it's because they realize they can make more money working for somebody else than they could working for themselves. Well, if you're making more money working for a boss than yourself, how is he exploiting you? Even if he makes a profit, if he's still paying you more than you would have been able to earn on your own, there's no exploitation. There's no deficit. The worker benefits from his employer's profit, because without his employer's profit, he wouldn't have a job in the first place. But again, Russell Brand doesn't know this. He's a smart guy, but he hasn't thought it through. He hasn't been able to connect the dots. And I think the problem is that he can't see through the smokescreen. He can't see through all the government lies. Yes, he's upset about the big profits maybe that the banks are earning based on government bailouts and government stimulus. But he doesn't understand that it's the government that is screwing things up. It's not the free enterprise system that's wrong. It's not profits that are bad, but it's government. It's government manipulation. It's profits that are derived from special interests, from special treatment, from special tax breaks or special subsidies or cheap money. Those type of profits that are not earned in a free market, but in a command economy by government. That's what the enemy is. That's what's undermined the economy, not real free market capitalism.